Estelle never thought that someone hated like her would end up marrying the prince. She was once a normal girl cleaning the house from top to bottom. Her mother and sister would scold her for not doing a good enough job, or soaking them with the water she used. Estelle looked down, ashamed, ready for more hits. But then a boy rushed over. The second prince had arrived. They looked in shock, and Estelle's sister imagined that he fell for her at the social debut. They decided to rush to meet with him. But before they did, Estelle's mother ordered her to wipe the floor. What a lovely life. Prince Louis was the second prince. By the divine oracle given at his birth, he was famously known as the prince loved by the sun. His advice saved them from a great famine, and his words resolved tense negotiations with a neighboring nation. His prayer diverted a raging storm. There were endless tales like these. As the lucky prince who brings blessings to the nation, he was beloved by the people. Estelle thought about herself. Compared to him, 8 years ago her father died in an accident protecting her. After that came crop failures from bad weather. A plague spread through the lands, and disasters like insect swarms followed. Ever since, she had been called a cursed being who brings misfortune. And even the unlucky lady, hated not only by her family but also by society. Even commoners did not like her. Estelle thought of the prince, and how different he was from her. But she snapped herself out of her thoughts. She had to finish mopping the floors. Estelle continued to clean until there was a message for her, and it was urgent. Then she found herself in front of the prince, who quietly sipped his tea. Her mother and sister were scowling at her. It turned out that the prince asked them to get Estelle, and they demanded to know why. The prince put his tea down and said that according to the promise made between the royal family and the Macy family in his grandfather's time, he wished to take the Macy family's daughter as his bride. Estelle's sister squealed. She could not believe she was going to be his bride. But then the prince got up and went down on one knee, in front of Estelle. He looked into her eyes and asked her to marry him. Estelle could not believe it. Her mother immediately got up and asked if the promise was for a marriage with the Macy family. She said that in that case her younger sister Olive was far more suitable in looks and temperament than Estelle. She told the prince how Estelle was a cursed girl who brought bad luck. She was not fit to be a prince's bride. Louis turned to Estelle's mother and asked if she was talking about the rumor of the unlucky lady. Estelle's mother said yes, and to her surprise the prince told her he already knew about it. And even so, he wished to make Estelle his bride. But Estelle's sister argued that Estelle was sloppy and unsociable. She said that she could not possibly handle royal social duties, and if her misfortune affected the prince, it would be a disaster. She urged him to choose her instead, but the prince asked how she could help. Her sister arrogantly said with her beauty and her youth. The prince laughed but told Estelle's sister that he saw Estelle once and fell in love immediately. He said that no other woman interested him. Estelle's sister huffed as Estelle looked at the prince in disbelief. What was he talking about? She had never even been to the kind of parties a prince attends. He said that as the lucky prince, neutralizing Estelle's misfortune was easy for him. If her cursed misfortune had been affecting their household, then her leaving would be good for the Macy family too. They looked at him with a scowl, and before Estelle could let a word out, her mother silenced her. Estelle blurted that she was sorry, but the prince asked to be left alone with Estelle for a moment. When they were alone, the prince told Estelle that her family had quite the personality. He told her that if she married him, she could leave this house. He did not think it was a bad idea, but he asked Estelle what she thought. Estelle told him that if she became his bride, she would only trouble him. But he said that if it was her misfortune, his luck could cancel it out. So there was nothing to worry about. Estelle smiled. She told him her misfortune could not be cancelled out. 8 years ago, when Estelle was a little girl, her sister Olive saw something that caught her eye. But her mother told her to look out. She held her hand out, but Estelle ended up in the middle of a charging carriage. Her father screamed her name, but it was all over in a flash. He had managed to move Estelle but got caught in the accident in her place. People rushed over as her father lay in a pool of his own blood. It was clear that he would not make it, but Estelle looked over him too terrified to even react. Her mother and Olive sobbed, and Olive blamed Estelle for this happening. After her father died, misfortunes continued and their finances grew strained. Her mother and Olive began to truly believe she was the one who caused the misfortune and spread it to everyone. The prince looked down, thinking of what Estelle had just said. He told her that from the way she spoke, she did not seem to believe in her own misfortune. Estelle told him that she was the daughter of her father's first wife, so her mother did not like her much anyway. And if her mother and sister found comfort in blaming Estelle, then she was okay with it. She told Louis it was true that her father died to protect her, and as someone carrying a fake misfortune, she could tell. She asked Louis if his luck was also something created. She said she did not believe all of his achievements were simply thanks to luck. She told him that those dazzling stories were probably the results of preparation and effort, things he accomplished himself. The reputation of such a wonderful prince loved by the people, someone hated like her should not tarnish it. So she pleaded with him to let this engagement be considered void. Refusing a prince's proposal was disrespectful, but if she married him, she would only cause trouble. If they needed a daughter from the Macy house, there was Olive, and that would be the best way about it. But Louis laughed. He told Estelle that no one had told him that luck was fabricated before. Estelle bowed, apologizing. She was worried she had come across as rude, but to her surprise, Luis apologized for startling her. He told her to raise her head, and he would not punish her for speaking her mind, for Estelle seemed to be more perceptive than he thought, so he would be honest too. He said that he never believed in all that luck or misfortune stuff to begin with. And this was the first time he had ever met Estelle. The love at first sight thing was a lie. Estelle smiled, asking if this meant that they could cancel the arrangement. But Luis said that on top of that he still needed her, specifically as the unlucky lady. He went down on one knee and asked Estelle if she would marry him. Estelle looked at him with nothing but fear. What was going on? Prince Luis was congratulated on his marriage. Estelle was by his side, looking beautiful in a ball gown. She wondered how many greetings they had made, and it had been a while since she stood in front of so many people. Her face was starting to stiffen from all the forced smiles. Luis smiled, asking Estelle if she was tired. She apologized, telling him she was fine. She thought that if she messed up she would trouble Luis, and she knew she could not let her guard down. Luis gently told her they should step away soon. Ever since the ceremony, they had not had a break. But then two figures approached them, asking where they were going without saying hello. It was the first prince, Luis's older brother Victor, and his sister, the first Princess Abby. Under his breath he called them the troublesome ones. They congratulated him on his marriage before turning to Estelle to ask if she was the unlucky lady. Estelle bowed, telling Victor it was a pleasure to meet him. He told her to do her best to get along with Luis, who seemed quite unimpressed by his brother's demeanor. Abby said that even if Estelle was the unlucky lady, he should ease up a little, since he was the one who ordered this marriage. Victor called her an uncute little sister as Estelle listened in shock. The crown prince ordered this? Abby sighed, asking why her brother married such a shabby woman. She said that she was the one supposed to choose a bride worthy of Luis. She had planned to pick one for him. Estelle looked down. She knew it. This marriage did not seem like something anyone could truly celebrate. She knew she was hated, so this could not be helped. Luis told his sister he knew she meant no harm, but no husband would be pleased to hear his wife insulted. He asked her if she understood that. Abby began to sweat, lost for words. Luis told her that Estelle was his wife, so she should be more careful with her words from now on. Abby looked at him with a nasty expression. This was a public place, and today was their wedding day. Estelle wondered if he was doing this for appearances, but having someone stand up for her. It was the first time since her father died. Luis whispered that he was sorry that Estelle had to go through that. He told her they should go since he wished to let his precious wife rest. He led Estelle away, leaving Abby furious. And another mysterious woman stepped forward. She had seen the entire encounter. Estelle got into her night clothes. She was in Prince Luis's quarters inside the royal palace, which was her home from now on. She knew it had been a rough day. Even on the way here, she felt like the servants were a bit distant. She was sure that the rumors of the unlucky lady had reached the palace too. Luis entered, asking Estelle to excuse him, and then Estelle remembered that tonight was their wedding night. He smiled, telling Estelle she must be tired so she could stay seated, but he asked if he could join her. He sat next to her and told her he was finally free. Estelle looked at him, unsure of what he meant, as Luis told her he would explain the true meaning of this marriage. He began by saying it might sound strange coming from him, but because of his reputation as the lucky prince, his brother resented him. He had no interest in the throne, yet his brother was always wary of him. He said that there were actually many who supported him as the next king. Estelle thought of how Victor came across. Luis continued to say that his brother turned his attention to the old promise with the Macy family and ordered him to marry Estelle. He heard the rumors about the unlucky lady from somewhere and thought to use that bad reputation. Estelle understood. She told him that if the unlucky lady became the future queen, it would be a different story. The voices supporting him as the next king would quiet down. Luis smiled, telling Estelle she really was perceptive. He told her he had no interest in the crown. More than anything, he did not wish for the country to fall into chaos because of him. Estelle looked at Luis, who told her that the coronation was in 1 year. If his brother was crowned safely in a year, he could set her free. But until then, he needed her to play the role of his wife. In other words, this was a time-limited contractual marriage. It was selfish of him, and he knew it would make Estelle uncomfortable. But before he could say another word, Estelle said no. That a day would come when the unlucky lady would be useful for someone truly made her happy. Luis was surprised by her answer, but he knew she was quite unusual. He said that he did feel bad about using her, but in a year he would definitely divorce her. And at that time, as an apology and thanks, whether it was enough money to live on for life or a good match in another country, he would grant her anything. But Estelle told him he did not need to thank her like that. Luis took Estelle's hand and looked into her eyes. He told her they were not like a normal married couple, fake good luck and fake bad luck. They had both been forced on them. He said that they would only be married for a year, so they should get along well enough to show them up. Estelle breathed yes. This man respected her, the unlucky lady, as a person, and without despairing over the false fate forced onto him. He simply kept looking forward and living his life. Estelle also wished she could be this positive. That night, Abby snapped on the balcony. She could not believe how Luis married such a gloomy, ominous woman. She ranted to Zara, a duke's daughter, who told Abby that Luis probably pitied the unlucky lady. She said she adored him for his kindness that resembled Abby's. Abby told Zara she was adorable, and the one who should be Luis's bride. She told her she would have Luis and Estelle separated immediately. Zara looked at Abby as she walked away, thinking to herself, this unlucky lady did not know her place, and she truly believed she was the one suited for Luis. Estelle looked down before she reached out and touched the flowers. She jumped when a maid asked her what she was doing. She scrambled to her feet saying nothing, and the maid told her it was time for lunch. She told Estelle she could call her by her name as she was just a servant, so Estelle asked her if there was any work she could do. The maid explained that as the prince's consort there was no need for her to do menial chores. Estelle apologized, bowing again. The maid noticed that Estelle was quite low in confidence, and she wondered what she should do with her. Lady Estelle was originally supposed to be the one giving orders to the servants. The maid kept an eye on her and realized that because of the unlucky lady rumors everyone kept their distance from her. So surely she must feel like she had no place in the manor. So she probably escaped out to the garden. This too was thanks to Lord Luis's luck. She saw him speaking with one of his men, and Estelle realized that he must be very busy. The maid explained how they rebuilt the bridge that kept being washed away every flood, just as His Highness instructed, and it withstood that terrible storm the other day. As a result, the lucky prince's power was praised yet again, and many petitions kept pouring in. So lately he had been so busy he often made do with just light meals. Estelle told the maid she understood. A bridge does not stand with luck alone, and it was surely Prince Luis's hard work that made it possible. And yet he was so busy he could not even eat properly. The maid told Estelle to go and have her lunch, and Estelle agreed. But if only she could be of some help to His Highness. Then her eyes widened and she turned back to the maid to tell her she had a favor to ask. Luis sat at his desk after a long day of work. He decided to finish off here, exhausted by everything he needed to do. But he did wonder how Estelle was doing. He had heard that she was not getting along well with the servants. He had not had the time to talk to her either. Then he noticed a noise outside the door. It turned out Estelle had brought him some tea. She asked the maid to let her use the kitchen, but maybe she should not have, thinking that food made by the unlucky lady might not be desirable. But Prince Luis said he did not believe in misfortune. Before she could argue with herself any longer, the door opened. Luis was surprised to see Estelle there, looking like a rabbit caught in the headlights. He asked her what brought her here so late. Estelle erupted, telling him she made him a late-night snack. Luis looked down at the tray and asked her if she made all this especially for him. She apologized, telling him it must be a bother at this hour. But Luis told her no. He was flattered that she went to the trouble to prepare it, so he said that he would gladly eat it. He sat down in his office, Estelle on the other side as he sipped the tea. He told her it had a gentle flavor. The vegetables were soft and easy to eat. She continued to say that she heard he had been so busy he only had light meals. Luis realized that Estelle was worried about him, and that was why she made the meal. He thanked her with a smile, telling her he was really happy, and then a sad memory came into her mind. Estelle noticed some commotion in Olive's room. She had noticed that Olive was sick and had not eaten anything since that morning. But then her mother stopped her immediately. She told Olive that if she ate something made by the unlucky lady and her condition got worse, then what? She ordered Estelle to clean up the mess made by her mother slapping the soup out of her hand. Luis noticed Estelle staring into space and he asked her if there was something wrong. Estelle snapped out of it, telling Luis it was nothing. Just having someone eat her food like this made her really happy. Luis told her that now he thought about it, he heard she told Mai she wanted to help with the work. Estelle apologized, telling the prince she would only cause trouble if she got involved. But he told her that was not what he meant and asked if there was anything else she wanted to try. So Estelle blurted that she would like to try to grow flowers. Luis looked up, surprised by her suggestion, but Estelle said she had let them die so many times and never once bloom. That was quite ridiculous to say the least. So Luis agreed to speak to the gardener, and Estelle thanked him with a big smile. The following day, Mai asked Estelle about her request, how she wanted to grow flowers of all things. Estelle smiled as she began planting the seeds. She was happy that the prince allowed her to use the flower bed freely, and he even had a work apron and gloves prepared for her. She was truly grateful. May said that normally in such cases you would ask for jewels or dresses, but Estelle smiled, knowing the flower bed was more than enough for her. She told May she should step back so she did not get dirty. She could see that a self-seeded flower had bloomed and she repotted it. Then she heard a sharp voice telling Estelle this was where she was. It was Olive, and she told Estelle that Prince Luis summoned her. She saw the flower and laughed, asking Estelle if she was really planting flowers again, even though they always ended up dying. She told Estelle she never learned. This make-believe of being a bride far above her station. It was over now. Olive stepped on the flower, leaving Estelle stung. Olive looked around Estelle's room, and she liked it. May had already grown suspicious of Estelle's cruel sister. Estelle asked Olive about how she said that Prince Luis summoned her, but before she could say another word, Olive ordered her to make her some tea. So Estelle accepted with a smile, but Mai held her hand up. She told Estelle to wait before telling her that as the prince's consort she did not need to make tea. Instead, she could do it. Estelle looked worried, and Olive looked pissed. She snapped at Mai and told her she was awfully nosy for a mere servant. She told her how Estelle loved making tea for her. She told Estelle to agree, and Estelle muttered yes. She thanked Mai but told her she would handle things from here. She anxiously poured the tea as Mai watched. Those practiced hands did not look like a noble lady's at all. And with how her little sister behaved maybe back in her family home, Estelle was treated like a servant. Estelle handed Olive the tea and apologized for keeping her waiting. But then Olive slipped the tea right out of her hands. It landed with a smash. She bluntly apologized, saying she got tired of waiting and her hand slipped. She told Estelle the grimy look really suited her, for she was beautiful and loved by everyone, so she was the suitable one to be the prince's bride. She asked Estelle if she thought so too, tauntingly. Before Mai could intervene, the door opened. It was the prince. He asked what was going on. Olive's face lit up when she saw him, telling him she was dying to see him. But then Louise told her he did not recall inviting her. So how did she even get into these quarters? Estelle gasped, asking if Louise truly did not call for her, and Olive acted none the wiser. Olive lied, saying that she received a letter from Estelle telling her she could not bear to be Louise's bride and she called for help, so she rushed here out of concern. She added that she knew the great role of prince's consort was too much for Estelle. Estelle was lost for words as Louise looked at Mai, who nodded. So he asked Olive if he could see this letter she was talking about. If there was some issue with Estelle's treatment as his consort, then it must be corrected. Estelle told the prince she never wrote any letter, but then Olive told her she was lying. She was the one who complained about her position as a consort, and Prince Louis. She gave Estelle a nasty look before handing him a letter. The prince read it out. An awful letter saying how Estelle could not get used to the glamorous life and the burden of being the prince's bride. The letter even called for Olive to take her place. Louis looked down and agreed that lying was not good, and Olive smirked, asking Estelle if she heard that. Estelle panicked. She had never sent that letter. Olive told her that before she embarrassed herself any further and caused more trouble, maybe she should just leave the palace. But then Louis's voice went dark. He told Olive he was talking about her. He placed the letter in front of her and told Olive this was not written by Estelle. Olive jumped up, telling him she had the actual letter with her. But then Louis held up an envelope. Letters from the palace must use these designated envelopes and stationery. Estelle said she was told only palace-issued stationery was kept in these quarters. He said that if this was really written by Estelle, it would have the national crest and his personal crest on it. But the one she brought had neither. Olive muttered that someone must be trying to frame her, and how awful it was to send a fake letter in Estelle's name. Louis looked at her, saying that if someone forged a royal letter in the consort's name, it was a serious crime. Olive began to sweat, as Louis asked for Mai to have the handwriting examined. Olive quickly interrupted, grabbing the letter and saying it was probably just some mistake. She smiled, saying there was no problem as long as Estelle was fine. Louis said he would be taking his leave, but Olive pleaded with him for some tea. But then Louis picked up the teacup from the floor, telling Olive her cup was already empty. He asked Mai to see their guest out, so Olive was escorted away. When she had left, Louis told Estelle that it was a problem that she slipped through a gap in security, but he asked her why she entertained Olive anyway. Estelle told Louis how Olive said he called for her, but Louis told her he would never summon Olive, and from now on, even if she used Estelle's name, she would not be allowed into these quarters. Estelle said yes. He asked about her tea-drenched clothes, and Mai told him how Lady Olive made Estelle pour the tea and then spilled it on purpose. She was furious to see that happen. So Mai told Estelle that as the prince's consort, she ranked far above the Macy family, and she did not need to obey someone like that. Louis told Mai that was enough. Estelle did nothing wrong. Mai apologized, explaining that Olive's attitude toward Estelle was too much. Louis understood where Mai was coming from, but he said he would make sure the guards were properly instructed. He apologized for all the trouble this had caused Estelle. Estelle thought of the one-year contract marriage. She was the one who had to make sure she did not cause trouble for His Highness. He asked about the dirt on her dress and if that was from Olive too. Estelle blushed, explaining that it was from gardening. The prince was shocked, admitting that when she said she wanted to grow flowers, he thought she meant just planting her favorites in a row. He did not expect her to take it so seriously, from preparing the soil. Estelle looked down. Until now, they always suddenly withered before they could bloom, so she wanted to learn how to grow them from the basics, and this time make them bloom. Louise told her that for every single one to die before blooming was too unnatural, and there must be some other human cause, but Estelle blamed herself. She said that she was sure she did not take proper care of them. The prince realized just how bad Estelle's self-esteem was in that moment. She looked up and asked Louise what his favorite flower was. He said he never really thought about it, but Estelle apologized, saying it was a selfish request, but she wanted to grow his favorite flower. She realized how silly it was, since he might not even like flowers. But then Louise brushed his hand against Estelle's cheek. She asked him what it was. Estelle looked at Louise, surprised. He smiled, telling her she had some mud on her. But Estelle told him she did not want him to get his hands dirty. She apologized, saying she was overstepping. But Louise smiled. He said that he had a suggestion for her and asked her to hear him out. A few days later, Luis took Estelle to a special shop. Her face lit up seeing so many beautiful flowers. Luis said that he figured since they were at it they should start by going to buy the flowers Estelle liked. Estelle smiled thanking Luis, but they saw some people who whispered and gave them awful looks. Luis apologized, asking Estelle if she could go into the shop ahead of him. Estelle agreed, but she turned to see him walking towards the group of people. She imagined it was more fun to chat to other women than be with her anyway. Luis said that the rumors of Estelle, the unlucky lady, had even spread to the commoners. He confronted the women, who apologized. They said that Estelle had a lot of rumors around her. Luis's attendant explained that after Count Macy died, it seemed his lady kept failing at managing the lands. The frustrated people needed someone to vent their anger on, and Lady Estelle, the unlucky lady, was convenient. He said that bad rumors spread quickly, but Luis said that he may have done something awful to Estelle instead. He thought going out might help Estelle clear her head, but it might have had the opposite effect. His attendant reminded Luis this was only a temporary marriage, and asked if he really needed to worry so much about Estelle, but Luis thought of the girl who accepted his selfish proposal so readily. He wanted to do everything he could for her. Meanwhile, Estelle explored the shop. She found a flower called bachelor's buttons, a beautiful blue one. The shop assistant asked her if she was looking for something, but when he saw Estelle, his face dropped. He asked what the unlucky lady was doing in his shop. Estelle said she would like some of the seeds, but the man said he had nothing to sell to the unlucky lady. He ordered her out of the shop, saying her misfortune would make all his flowers wither. But then Luis came. He asked Estelle if she wanted seeds for that flower. Estelle told him how she could not even buy the seeds as he wrapped his hand around hers. He said that the flower was beautiful, asking what it was called. The store assistant gasped, instantly recognizing Luis as the lucky prince. Luis asked the shopkeeper if he had seeds for bachelor's buttons. The shopkeeper said he would prepare them immediately. Luis asked him why he did not do that from the start, and the shopkeeper blurted that it was because her misfortune might make the flowers wither. Luis said it was ridiculous. If they withered, he would revive them with his luck, asking the man if he had any objections. The man said no, his voice wobbling as Luis handed Estelle the seeds. She smiled, and Luis warned that from now on anyone who insulted his wife would not be forgiven. He took Estelle by the hand. The bachelor's button flower represented good luck. In the end, Luis and Estelle only bought the bachelor's button seeds. Luis told her that she did not have to hold back because of that shopkeeper, but Estelle told him the seeds were more than enough. And since the unlucky lady was hated, people often refused to sell to her at all. She looked away, thinking of the memories of her previous garden, all the flowers withering and Olive laughing. Luis asked Estelle what was wrong, and Estelle said it was nothing. But then something caught her eye. Another flower had bloomed. She smiled, looking so happy to see the single flower. Luis told her that no one here was going to make the flower she grew wither, so she did not need to worry. Estelle thanked him, telling him that being able to grow flowers like this felt like a dream. But that itself made her nervous. Luis wondered just how low her self-esteem really was. She had lived in that environment for so long he guessed it could not be helped. Estelle was truly thankful, and she told Luis how she thought that he had shared some of his luck with her. He told her that his luck was fake and from now on her flowers would not wither, but Estelle told him his luck was not fake. It was a result of his efforts. But to her he was a prince of good fortune. Luis smiled. Being praised for his luck and actually feeling good about it was new to him. He wondered how many years it had been. Estelle looked at Luis and said she was only temporary in name. But if there was someone he truly cared for, she would shut herself away in her room and she would agree to a divorce whenever it was convenient for him. She asked him not to worry. Luis looked at her. She had no interest even if he got close to another woman. It was only a contract marriage, so of course. But somehow it did not sit well with him. Meanwhile, Abby complained in her room. She said that by Victor saying Luis was newlywed, letting them just watch over him, she was convinced he was putting his own convenience first. They had only just finished the ceremony, Zara said. She asked if he was not planning to divorce her after things had cooled down. Abby said it would be troublesome if it dragged on and they grew attached. Luis was kind. He might not be able to kick her out. Zara agreed, but she knew that if the unlucky lady wished to step down, she was sure he would grant it. Abby smiled wickedly, saying they should invite them to a ball. Since they had the chance, it would be nice to deepen their acquaintance. Zara smiled, saying she was looking forward to meeting her. Estelle learned how to dance with May, but she certainly was not the best. She accidentally stumbled, falling into the maid. She apologized like crazy, but May told her it was fine before asking if she was hurt. Estelle smiled awkwardly, telling May she was fine, but dance steps were harder than she thought. Luis peeked his head around, telling Estelle that he heard she had been practicing. She said yes, but she wondered why he joined. May said that although it was presumptuous of her, she thought that practicing with His Highness would be the quickest way for her to improve, so she reported it. Luis said that just as May said, but Estelle told him she only learned the absolute basics. Luis asked how much she could dance, and she responded that she rarely appeared in public, so she had not been going out much. Luis thought to himself before saying that he guessed they would see once she tried. He took Estelle's hand, and together they danced. He led the way, counting to 3, but then Estelle twisted her ankle, falling into Luis. She blushed, immediately apologizing for falling into him. She asked Luis if he was okay, but he caught her. He looked into her eyes, telling her she seemed really unsteady, asking if she was tired. Estelle said no, apologizing yet again. She admitted it was the heels that she was not used to. Mie said that Estelle had been practicing alone this whole time, so she might be sleep-deprived. She asked if it was because his older sister invited him to the evening party, and Estelle said that she did not want to trouble him. But Luis said that he was happy that she was working so hard for his sake, but he told her not to push herself too hard. Estelle knew he was right, but then he suggested that they go shopping since it would be a nice change of pace. Estelle looked at him, wondering what that would entail. Luis showed her to a beautiful shop filled with lavish gowns and accessories. He waited in the sitting area, flicking through the catalog. Estelle asked what shop this was, and he said that it was a shop exclusively used by the royal family. Everything was so sparkly it was making Estelle's head spin. But Luis told her it would be good for her to look at the evening party dresses. He smiled, telling her he would be waiting. When she left, he thought to himself what kind of outfit would suit Estelle. She came back in no time, having tried on a dress she liked. She asked Luis what he thought, and he did a double take, seeing how pretty and elegant she looked. But Estelle looked down, suspecting his face meant it did not suit her. Luis quickly corrected her, telling her it looked really good on her. Estelle smiled shyly. She thought Luis was just being polite, but hearing him say that made her happy. Luis asked Estelle to sit next to him, and she did so. He told her that not just for the evening party, if there was anything she wanted, they could buy various things. That was why they came all the way to this shop in the royal capital. Estelle told him all the jewels were too glamorous for her, and she wondered which one she should pick. So Luis told her that they could choose something that looked like it would suit Estelle. He picked out a few options so she could let him know if there was one she liked. He asked the attendant to bring some out. Estelle thought to herself that since His Highness Luis went out of his way to bring her here, it would be rude if she did not choose something. She looked down to see a necklace with a beautiful green gemstone. It was just like Prince Luis's eyes. Luis asked Estelle if she liked it, and she jumped. She said yes, but then no. Luis asked to see it, and he cradled it in her hands. He thought it was a beautiful color. The attendant agreed, and to Estelle's horror she commented that it was the same color as the prince's eyes. Estelle did not know what to do. To think she was captivated by His Highness's eye color. She might end up making him feel uncomfortable. So she said the color of flower leaves. Luis paused, telling her he got it. He asked the attendant for the necklace, and told Estelle that at the evening party she could wear the necklace. It should serve as at least a bit of a deterrent. He smiled, telling Estelle the color of his eyes after all. Estelle thought to herself, the gemstone she chose, His Highness's eyes, and even though she realized it was the same color, even if she wears it, was it okay? They both took the carriage home, and Estelle thanked Luis for buying her so many things. Luis smiled, asking her if she enjoyed today. He said the other day he forced her to come out and ended up making her feel uncomfortable. But Estelle said not at all. Both that day and today she had a really great time. Luis smiled, telling her if that was the case then he was glad. He said he had fun too. Estelle promised she would not embarrass herself as Prince Luis's wife at the evening party and she would do her best. But Luis told her that was reassuring. He told her they should go shopping together again. He asked Estelle if cornflowers bloom every year and she said they were annuals, so once the flowers withered that was it. In that case they would buy new seeds, but they were looking forward to seeing those beautiful blue flowers bloom again. Estelle smiled, telling Luis if he liked them that made her happy. Luis smiled, saying the dress they bought today was something that suited the current season. He whispered in Estelle's ear. She knew it was right, they were only for 1 year, a couple for a limited time. As for next year there would not be one. They paused awkwardly, but Estelle blurted Luis's name. She told him that it was about next year. She had a request. She began to say that after their contract marriage ended, but then she faltered. Luis asked her what it was, slowly holding his hand out. He took hers. She asked him if they could stay friends. Luis looked at her but said nothing, and Estelle told him he could refuse. She told him it was such an impudent request, and that he could forget about it. But Luis smiled and he sat next to her. He told her she really was unusual. But then he said that when this relationship was over they would become friends properly. Estelle smiled, telling Luis it was her first time being able to make a friend. Luis felt his heart pounding. She thanked him, feeling warm at the thought of becoming friends with the prince. She was happy, but there was still a feeling she could not quite work out. She wondered what it was that she really wanted to say. Luis looked out of the window, also feeling strange. He realized that because she was a time-limited wife, a contractual partner, he would eventually part ways with her. Anything was fine. He looked at Estelle, who smiled, and he quickly looked away. He could not believe it, but what he was thinking was clear as day. He was thinking about Estelle. Strangers told Prince Luis he was wonderful as ever. They curiously looked at the woman by his side, and were quickly told that she was the unlucky lady. Estelle could hear their nasty words. How the unlucky lady seemed less gloomy. but how they were still afraid to be possessed by bad luck. Luis saw Estelle looking upset, and asked her what was wrong. Estelle eventually told him it was how people called her the unlucky lady, or at least she felt like she was being called that. Luis reached out his hand and petted her head. He smiled warmly, reminding her it was because she married him, so she was now the lucky princess. Estelle smiled as Luis looked at the necklace he got her. He told her that both the dress and necklace looked beautiful on her, and it was worth him getting them. Estelle smiled and thanked him, but they caught the attention of a pair of jealous eyes. Zara glared at them before making her way to the prince. She told Luis it had been a long time. She looked at Estelle and told her this was her first time having the honor of meeting her. She introduced herself as Zara McLennan. Estelle was immediately in awe of Zara's perfect looks. She introduced herself as Estelle Brain. Zara looked at Luis and told him that Abby was calling for him. It was something about wanting to confirm something regarding the official duties. Luis sighed, asking if it really was necessary in a place like this. He guessed it could not be helped, and it would be a hassle if they came to bother him about it later. He told Estelle to stay here, but if anything happened she could call him anytime. Estelle agreed. When she was alone with Zara, Zara told her how Luis was really kind to absolutely everyone. He did not forget to be considerate even towards Lady Estelle. She told Estelle he truly was a wonderful person. Estelle smiled and agreed. She admitted it felt wasteful though. Zara told her the chain was tangled in her hair and she went behind Estelle to fix it. Estelle thanked her, knowing she was worried about various things, but she was pleased there was someone like Zara who was kind to her. She mentioned the necklace, telling her it was a beautiful green stone like Luis's eyes, but then Zara sharply told her it did not suit her. She snapped the necklace, leaving Estelle shocked. The necklace dropped to the floor. Zara accused Estelle of being a bringer of misfortune, and that it would be best for her to hurry up and disappear. Before she could say another word, Luis returned. He looked at Estelle, immediately sensing that something bad happened. He asked her what was wrong before seeing the necklace on the ground. Zara turned to Luis, telling him that all of a sudden, Estelle's necklace snapped. By this point a lot of eyes were on them, discussing how the unlucky lady's necklace broke. Estelle told the prince that she got dizzy from all the people. She told him she was going to get some fresh air for a bit. Luis grabbed Estelle, calling her back. People muttered how he was the prince of good fortune, and how ironic it was for his gift to break. Zara complained she was scared. As expected, an unlucky lady becoming the prince's consort. To begin with, neither her status nor her looks matched His Highness Luis. They said that Zara was a better match for the prince, adding that if it was the Duke McLennan's daughter she would be suitable for Luis. They told her it suited her, and Zara smiled at all the attention. But then Luis returned, and he heard everything. He firmly said that Estelle was his wife, and if they were going to insult his wife, they had better be prepared to face the consequences. Zara's eyes widened as she realized Luis was addressing her. For Prince Luis was normally calm, they had never seen him like this before. They wondered why he was getting angry for the sake of a woman like her. Estelle looked at the necklace with sadness. She had stepped outside and felt terrible. She knew Zara broke the necklace, but she had no proof. And besides, the gift His Highness gave her, it was true that she was not able to take proper care of it, even though His Highness went out of his way to give it to her. She heard her name and turned to see Luis, who asked if she was all right. She forced a smile, telling him she was fine, but she looked at the broken necklace again. She apologized, looking down. She knew it was a gift from him, but then Luis took her hands and told her it was all right. He said that if it broke, they could just fix it, and he even held one up, offering to give her another one with a laugh. Estelle said no, she wanted the same necklace. Luis thought to himself, saying maybe it was the color of his eyes. Estelle blushed, but Luis was grinning. He told her that was the Estelle he knew. He knew she must have been nervous at a party she was not used to, but he told her she was doing well. Estelle thanked him and he told her he would fix the necklace properly so she should not worry. But the things that belonged to Estelle, he enjoyed picking them out, so he asked her from now on if he could give her gifts. Estelle was lost for words and he asked her if she would not want that. She said no, so he suggested they go shopping again. He wished he could give her everything in the shop, and Estelle laughed to think His Highness would say something like that as a joke, but Luis told her it was not a joke. Estelle smiled, knowing Luis was really being considerate of her. She told Luis he truly was a very kind person. But Luis said he really was not. Even though he kindly took the time to practice dancing with her, it ended up being for nothing. But Luis told her there was nothing to worry about. He said if it was dancing they could do it here. Taking her hand he pulled her in, and together they danced on the balcony. Estelle blushed, finally feeling herself relax into his arms. Luis told her she had gotten better and asked her not to look away. Just like this, he wanted her to stay with him a little longer. Estelle felt her face turning scarlet as he gazed into her eyes. But their intimate moment was being watched by a pair of hateful eyes. Zara could not believe it. She looked at Estelle and saw nothing but an eyesore. The next day Luis took Estelle to the most famous theater in the capital. It was unlike anything Estelle had ever seen before. Luis asked her if it was her first time coming here, and she said yes, it was her first time at a theater or seeing a play. Luis asked Estelle for her hand and she said yes. He told her about clearing up the rumors of the unlucky lady, and he said being spoken badly of forever felt unpleasant. Estelle said she really appreciated it, but was it not going to be pretty hard? Luis told her that they had to show everyone how close they were as a married couple. If they saw that he was happy being with her, he knew the rumors would settle down soon enough. Estelle's eyes widened, wondering what he meant by showing them. But Luis just smiled. He told her that was the idea, before asking her if they should head out. So Estelle walked into the theater to see many men and women. Luis wrapped his arm around her, telling her that her outfit really suited her. He told her it made it worth picking out. Estelle thanked him, feeling uneasy. She smiled, telling him he had only just given her a gift the other day, sensing him closer than usual. Luis told her there was no need to worry about it. Thinking that he wanted to make his precious wife look beautiful, it was only natural. But then they felt stares and heard whispers. More people commented on how they were pleased to finally see the lucky prince, but the unlucky lady ruined it. Estelle thought about the plan, to show everyone how close they were as a couple. She thought that it was truly hopeless for her. Luis added that it was a hassle, and maybe he should just make an official announcement instead. He said that misfortune was balanced out by good luck and they lived together in harmony. From now on, whoever insulted her as the unlucky lady, he would personally deal with them. But Estelle pleaded with him not to, thinking about what that could do to his position. But Luis told her it was only natural to get angry when someone insulted his wife, but she was right. He did not want to do anything that would make Estelle uncomfortable or unhappy. He thought that they could try another method instead, and then Luis was surrounded by a group of girls who swooned over him. Estelle was shoved to the side, but Luis grabbed her. He apologized, telling the girls he wanted to spend the day alone with his wife, and then he swooped Estelle up into his arms. The girls looked completely heartbroken, and Estelle asked if this was really alright in front of everyone, but Luis simply smiled at her. It was clear he did not care what anyone thought, but amongst the crowd was Olive, looking more furious than ever. She hissed that Estelle was getting way too full of herself, since she did kill her father after all. Estelle and Luis were shown to their seats. Estelle thought about how she had been carried in his arms the whole time, and Luis's smile was too bright and her heart was racing. But she knew all this was an act, and it would be rude if she acted weird. She tried to calm herself down. Luis looked at the seats and the view was amazing. He told Estelle it was just the two of them here, so she did not need to be nervous. He told her to come, and Estelle was relieved that they were taking a break from the plan for now. He asked for her hand before slipping his into hers. Estelle was taken aback. There was no one watching, so why did he want to hold her hand? Luis told her even if this were an act, he would be doing it a lot better. Estelle looked up. If Luis told her he was not acting at all, would it trouble her? So he told her it was nothing. Not long after, the show began. It was announced that the performance would begin shortly, and Estelle could still feel Luis's hand on hers. She blushed, keeping her eyes on the stage, but she could feel his eyes on her. He was not acting right now, but she was sure he was only doing this to help her calm down. And yet somehow she could not focus on the play. She could tell that his hand was always so gentle, but in a year she would have to let go of this hand. Before she could think of that any further, she stopped herself. What a ridiculous thought to have. She could not help but shake her head, and Luis noticed her twitching. Suddenly, the audience began to clap. The performance was over. On their way out, Luis told Estelle it was a good performance, and she agreed, telling him it was very interesting. But the truth was, Estelle's heart was racing so much, there were parts where she could not focus. She thanked Luis for today, and someone asked him if he could have a moment. Luis turned to see the manager, and he asked Estelle to wait for him for a moment. Estelle smiled and agreed. Luis brushed her hair and petted her head, telling her he would be right back. Estelle knew that since there were people watching, he must just be acting. But when His Highness touched her, she could not help but melt. But then she heard a squeal. It was Olive, telling her how carefree she was. Estelle's eyes widened. Why was she here? But Olive hissed that she should be the one asking that. She told Estelle it was a lovely play that was ruined because the unlucky lady was there. She said Estelle was taking advantage of the prince's kindness, saying her brazen older sister was just unpleasant. She told Estelle she should not mistake Luis's pity for love. Estelle did not know what to do. She could not just walk away in front of everyone. But Olive aggressively held her hand out, shouting that Estelle killed her own father and dragged her family down. She spat that Estelle was a curse. Estelle gulped, overwhelmed by Olive's nasty words. She further taunted Estelle, as others began asking if the unlucky lady caused trouble again. And then Luis came. He asked what all the noise was about, and his face dropped when he saw Olive. Olive put on her innocent little girl voice, asking Luis to listen to her. She said that her sister's misfortune could not be inherited or anything, and at this rate she might even bring harm to Luis. She pleaded for him to reconsider his fiancée. Estelle looked down. All she cared about was Luis, and she could never forgive herself if something bad were to happen to him. Luis wrapped his hands around her shoulders. He told her that in other words, his good luck would lose to Estelle's misfortune. Olive quickly said no, that was not what she meant. But Luis told her he married Estelle, and he had never been struck by misfortune because of it. And he was very unhappy. He warned that from now on anyone who insulted his wife by calling her an unlucky lady would be dealt with. He asked Olive and everyone else if they understood. Olive began to panic and she stepped back. Suddenly she fell, landing on her bottom. Luis looked at her with no sympathy in sight. He reminded her that the other day she also barged into the palace uninvited and threw a teacup on the floor. He told Olive that she really seemed to like the floor, but Olive yelled no. She told him her sister was unlucky. Estelle was in the carriage. She told Luis she was sorry about her sister earlier, but Luis would not let her apologize. He told her that even when she was treated cruelly, it did not seem like she resented her younger sister. Estelle told him it was true that their father died because of her. Luis looked down. Estelle's father, he had heard, died in a carriage accident, but he wondered if he should look into it in more detail. Estelle said that earlier, His Highness said he had never suffered any misfortune, and Estelle knew she caused him trouble, but even so it made her happy. Even if everyone hated her, she still loved people. Luis told her that everyone had just misunderstood, and as for him, he liked her. That made Estelle's eyes widen. As a person, she understood it was only as a contract partner, but his words made her happy. He was truly very kind. Luis cocked his head to the side, thinking it could not be helped. For the sake of this smile, he would put up with it. Estelle smiled, seeing what she had been working hard on was finished. May sighed, telling Estelle she had never heard of a prince's fiancé making cookies. The other servants were confused too, and Estelle apologized. But she was still proud. She knew, even if only a little, it was for Prince Luis. She wanted to thank him somehow. May asked Estelle why she did not deliver them to the prince herself, and Estelle blushed. But May thought it was a great idea, and that the prince would be delighted. Estelle thought maybe it would be nice, and she knew she should thank him directly. She turned to the servants and handed them a batch, telling them they were for the delicious meals, the cleaning and the laundry. She thanked them for everything they always did. The servants could not believe it. Estelle reassured May she would be fine and thanked them for letting her use the kitchen. She bowed. The chef whispered that it was his first time receiving homemade sweets, and another maid said she was a lot cheerier than the rumors said. She even praised them for cleaning and doing the laundry. She took a bite, and the sweet truly was delicious. Estelle went on her way to the prince's room. The cookies were not even burnt, and she tasted them. She told herself it would be fine and she was sure His Highness would be pleased too. Maybe he would even be happy. But on her way she bumped into Abby and Zara. They said what a peculiar person she was, as from here on was an official palace building. They asked Estelle where she thought she was going. Estelle awkwardly bowed to Abby. She explained she was bringing something to Prince Luis. They looked at her with suspicion, asking if it was a delivery. They asked if they could see and Estelle handed her the basket. Zara was stunned. She asked Estelle if she made these herself. Estelle said yes, her voice breaking out of fear. Zara said that handmade sweets from the unlucky lady were bad luck and disgusting. She asked Estelle what she expected would happen. Abby sighed, saying that Estelle was a foolish girl who misunderstood Luis's kindness. She told her that handmade treats from the unlucky lady were something no one wanted. Estelle was silenced by Zara, who went on to say she guessed that Estelle would not understand unless she was told clearly. She told her that her behavior went beyond being a nuisance. It was a sin. She dropped the basket to the floor and all the cookies fell out. Zara pretended to be shocked before she treaded on the cookies. She whispered to Estelle that for someone of the unlucky lady's standing she should stop getting carried away. Estelle knew she had no choice. As Abby and Zara laughed and walked off, Estelle knew they were right. His Highness did not need to worry about misfortune, and other people were different. But then she heard her name being called. She looked up to see Luis, who was surprised to see her in a place like this. He asked her what was wrong, if she had some urgent business. But when he looked to the floor and saw the smashed cookies, he knew there was more to what Estelle was about to say. She said she just tripped, but Luis looked down. He asked her to go with him for a moment. Estelle looked around as she entered a room with Luis. He explained it was his mother's room, the late queen's chambers. Because of his reputation as the lucky prince, there were not many places in the palace where he could be alone. When he did not want to see anyone, he would hide in this room. Estelle thought that even Prince Luis, who was loved by everyone, had times where he longed to be alone. Luis told her it was pretty much his secret spot, and Estelle panicked, thinking it was wrong for her to be in such an important room. But Luis told her it was fine. She was his wife, and more importantly, he thought maybe it was hard for her to talk with other people around. He asked Estelle if something happened, but she said nothing, and that what did happen was her fault. Luis picked up the remains of the cookies and asked if he could take them as a gift. Estelle said yes, but then she said no. She explained that if there was something wrong with the way she made them, but before she could say another word, Luis told her there was no reason why he would not eat something his wife made for him. He popped them into his mouth and Estelle took a breath. Luis smiled, telling her the cookies were not too sweet and tasted really good. In fact, they tasted gentle, just like Estelle. He thanked her for doing this for him. They gazed into each other's eyes and Estelle was drowning in the moment. She was so happy he liked them and he was so kind. But a maid spotted that the queen's room was wide open, and Estelle panicked. If it stayed like this, His Highness's secret place would be found out. Louise took her hand and told her to go with him. She followed him behind a curtain where Louise held her tight. Estelle felt her face burn as Louise held her tight. The maid peeked her head around, muttering to herself how she thought she heard something. As soon as she left, they both let out a sigh of relief. Louise realized how tight he was holding Estelle and quickly let go. He realized that there actually was no reason for them to hide and apologized. But Estelle told him that was not true. She saw a photograph on the floor and realized she may have knocked it over, apologizing to Louise. When she picked it up, she saw a photograph of the king, queen, and their children. She asked him if this was his family. Louise smiled, telling her it brought back memories. Back when their mother was still alive, his brother and he got along really well. They used to play hide and seek all over the palace. Right now, because of the reputation of the Lucky Prince, people were wary of him. But despite how he looked, his brother was an excellent leader. As for Louise's future, he wanted to be a support for his older brother. Marrying the unlucky lady pushed him further away from the throne. She imagined that was what he wanted. Maybe the two of them still got along even now, and maybe things were not that bad. She told Louise she hoped that he could get along with his brother again like he used to. His precious memories were something she loved that he shared with her. But Louise knew there was trouble between the brothers, and he was the one who dragged her into this on his own. Even so, Louise told Estelle she was his wife and he was really glad. Estelle whispered that she was too, even if it was only temporary. She told him she was happy to be his wife, and for the rest of their days together she would do her best not to trouble him. Louise walked toward Estelle and asked her if she was really okay with it. Estelle was unsure what to say. She began to stutter. That night she was kept awake by her thoughts. She wondered what she really wanted to do. If maybe it could be just like this forever. If she could be together with Prince Louis. In other words, this was a temporary fixed-term contract marriage, and Louis said that it pained him to make use of Estelle, but a year from now they would definitely divorce. But Estelle knew that they were in a temporary contract marriage and they were only a married couple in form. Even if he would just become her friend a year from now, it was an honor beyond what she deserved. Anything more than that would be a wish far beyond her place. Meanwhile, Louise met with May. She reported to him that the servants' attitude toward Lady Estelle had begun to improve. She told him how Lady Estelle was always considerate even toward the servants, and it seemed that it had finally begun to reach everyone. Louise smiled. He was glad to hear that, but before May left, he called her back. He asked her if there was something Estelle would truly be happy about, or if there was anything she liked. May said that she loved flowers and worms that made the soil rich, also the fluffy palace bread, the palace rooftops shining in the morning sun, and the little birds. In short, she liked small, modest things. Louise knew May was right. Estelle liked these things more than expensive jewels, little bits of happiness and thoughtful gestures. He knew she was a kind person, and he wanted to make her happy. He wanted to see more of her genuine smile. Suddenly, an idea came to mind. He told May to get Estelle for him tomorrow. The next day, Cleo stormed around the drawing room. She overheard girls saying how they got invited to the next royal ball, hissing at the announcement. She was convinced that she was the one who was supposed to become the prince's bride and live in the palace. But now she was even banned from entering. Her sister, who refused to give up her position as the prince's bride, must be deceiving Prince Louis. She stomped off onto the balcony where a voice asked if she was Olive Macy. She turned around to see a girl who introduced herself as Zara McLennan, the Duke's daughter. She apologized, saying she did not mean to eavesdrop, but she was also concerned about the rumors surrounding Estelle. Olive asked if she was talking about bad rumors, and Zara said that Estelle tried to force some poor-quality sweets onto Prince Louis. Zara told Olive that if this continued, she was worried that something bad might happen to Prince Louis as well. She said she had been terribly worried, but Olive looked at her in shock, asking if such things had truly happened. Zara said that as she suspected, Lady Estelle was not worthy of their beloved Lucky Prince, and Olive agreed enthusiastically. She said she absolutely could not allow her to remain the prince's bride. Zara had to hold back her evil grin. She knew this would make things a lot easier for her. So she told Olive that for the sake of their beloved prince, before Prince Louis became tainted by misfortune, they must do something. She told Olive how she mentioned she was banned from entering the palace because of Estelle. Zara said there was no need to worry because if it was her, she could arrange a palace entry permit for Olive. She told her that they would be the ones who would save Prince Louis. Cleo smiled, liking Zara's plan. Louis told Estelle they had arrived as Estelle admired the beautiful landscape. They had traveled by carriage to another part of the kingdom. Louis thinking Estelle would like scenery like this. She smiled, telling Louis she loved it. The truth was that Louis wanted to make Estelle happy, but he wondered why he was the one enjoying it so much. He told her he was glad that she liked it. He said that when the king proposed to the queen, he gave her baby's breath, and that was how this flower field came to be. It was a flower field tied to their memories. Louis told Estelle that his parents were very close and he admired them. Someday he imagined himself giving baby's breath to someone important to him too. Estelle smiled, telling him it was a lovely dream, and Louis stared at her. He told her that he wondered when the flowers Estelle planted would bloom, and Estelle told him that the buds were just starting to swell. The gardener taught her some tricks and the maids helped with the weeding too. She said that at last she could make the flowers bloom. Louise smiled, telling Estelle that she worked hard. He said that when they bloomed they could look at them together, and Estelle agreed. They found a bench and sat down, feeling like they were floating in a sea of baby's breath. Louise turned to Estelle and told her that there was something he wanted to ask her. Estelle asked him what it was, and he said that her father, the accident that killed Count Macy. He knew that Estelle blamed herself for her father's death, but all the servants who knew what happened were dismissed. So in the end, the truth was never known. He told her it was just the two of them here now. So he wanted her to tell him everything honestly. From her point of view, he wanted to know the truth of the accident. Estelle went silent before telling him that day. Olive got distracted by a street stall and ran into the road. Estelle rushed out after her to stop her. Then, protecting her as she was about to be hit by a carriage, her father got hit. Louise looked at Estelle and apologized. He did not want her to have to remember something so painful. Estelle told him she was fine, but Louise asked if this meant that Olive was the trigger, and Estelle lost her father too. Estelle said that even so he protected her, and her father died. She also knew that if hating her could save her mother and Olive, then she was fine with being hated and labeled the unlucky lady. Louise then knew that the reason for Estelle's low self-worth was her guilt toward her father. He asked her about her father's feelings, a question that took Estelle back. But Louise said that to her father, Estelle was someone worth protecting with his life. She was someone precious to him. And if that was the case, more than atonement, he would surely wish for her happiness. Estelle thought of the memories of her father. Would he wish for her happiness? And then she realized the truth. He would, and Louise knew that too. He asked her if she remembered what he promised before, that they would get along so well it would make everyone else jealous. He asked Estelle if they could be happy together. In that moment, Estelle knew that the sin of causing her father's death would not disappear, but someone accepted her, so maybe she was allowed to try and be happy. She took Louise's hand and he pulled her in and kissed her cheek. Estelle blushed, and Louise told her that if a couple was close, then this was normal. Estelle breathed that if that was true, and Louise told her to wait a second. But Estelle was stunned. She had just carried out a normal couple thing. Louise came back with baby's breath, and he told Estelle, his beloved wife, that it was a present. Estelle took it and thanked him, but he pointed to his cheek, asking if she could thank him that way. Estelle turned red, before Louise told her that they should come here again together. Estelle agreed. May put the baby's breath in a vase for Estelle, and she told her they were perfect for her room. Estelle thanked May, complimenting how lovely she had arranged them. Estelle looked at the flowers, gently brushing her fingers over the buds. She thought about what Louise said that day, and if her father forgave her, if he wished for her happiness, she knew what she needed to do. May returned to Estelle's room with a letter, and Estelle took it, but when she opened it, she could not believe what it was. An invitation to tea from Princess Abby. Today was the day of the tea party, and Louise looked down thinking of his sister. He was told by his attendant about the cookie incident, and how Zara and Abby were responsible. Louise doubted that they would go as far as harming Estelle, but he worried that they might speak badly of her. Estelle looked at the hairpiece she was given, a beautiful green gem that was the same color as Prince Louis's eyes. She put it in her hair, and Louise told her he wanted her to have it as a good luck charm. He said it suited her well, and Estelle thanked him. He felt Estelle's hair between his fingers and breathed in her scent. Estelle asked him what he was doing, and he told her it was just a husband showing affection as he saw off his wife. He asked her if she disliked it, to which Estelle replied no. Before she could say anything else, Louise looked her in the eyes, holding her face in his palms. He told her that when she returned from the tea party there was something he wanted to talk about. He cradled her a little longer before telling her to take care. Abby and the other guests were already at the tea party when Estelle arrived. Estelle went straight to Abby, thanking her for the invitation. But before she could say anything, Abby interrupted her. She told her it was disgraceful of her to show up late. Others sniggered, saying Estelle must be unfamiliar with tea parties and probably did not even understand them. How rude it was to keep a princess waiting. Estelle looked up. She had come exactly at the time written on the invitation. Abby said that she supposed it could not be helped, flippantly telling Estelle she forgave her for Zara's sake. Estelle bowed and thanked Abby for forgiving her rudeness. She looked down, feeling alienated. The others complimented the tea that Zara brought, saying it had a sweet and gentle aroma. Estelle joined in and thanked her too, looking down at the tea. The floating petals had such a lovely color to them. But then she realized that what she had been served was not tea, it was mud. Zara smirked, saying it was a special tea imported from a neighboring country. She told Estelle to go on and have some. Estelle took a breath before sipping the tea. She held her mouth, tasting nothing but dirt. Zara asked Estelle what was wrong, and Abby called Estelle rude for her reaction, after Zara went to all that trouble to bring the tea. She said that Estelle must not know the taste of fine tea. Not only was Estelle unlucky but uncouth too. Estelle could not even speak, as Zara blamed herself for not bringing something that would suit Estelle's taste. Estelle knew that being hated was nothing new for her, but she remembered what Louise said that morning, how the hairpiece was a good luck charm he wanted her to have. Estelle knew that she also had to change. so she spoke up and said that the teacup was filled with muddy water, and she would like it replaced. The women looked at each other and Abby rolled her eyes. Zara could not believe it, accusing Estelle of trying to corner her. She would not allow that, and as long as she disposed of the muddy water in the cup, Estelle would remain the uncouth, unlucky lady forever. So she dashed the teacup before asking Estelle if she was alright as it fell all over her dress. When she bent down to pick up the cup, she held onto Estelle's hair, warning her not to get carried away. She told her to disappear, and called her nothing but a walking disaster. Zara asked Estelle if she had forgotten already, and Estelle's eyes widened. There was a knock on the door and an old man walked in, asking the girls if they were in the middle of tea. All the women stood up. It was the king. The king chuckled, telling them there was no need to be so stiff. He was just taking a walk and thought he would see Abby. But then Estelle caught his eye. He smiled and told her kindly that life in the palace must be difficult, and asked her to take care of Luis. Estelle said yes as he turned to Zara. He told her it had been a while as Zara curtsied. She told him life was full of surprises and he said she had been with Luis ever since she was little. He even said that he thought she might marry him someday. The king walked away, leaving Estelle stung by what he had just said. Zara and Prince Luis getting married. Abby laughed, saying her father was right. Zara and Luis had always been close. Abby then asked Zara about her ribbon, and Zara said that Prince Luis gave it to her when they were children, and unlike Estelle's hair ornament, it was faded, but filled with precious memories. Abby added how they were even spoken of as an engaged couple, saying they were a perfect match. Estelle wondered if Prince Luis and Zara were the pair even the king acknowledged, and yet by Prince Victor's order he married the unlucky lady, and because of her Luis was blocked from being with Zara. Meanwhile, Luis dealt with some documents in the library. He handed the documents to his attendant, telling him that he had finished. The attendant realized that Luis seemed to be in a hurry and asked him where he was going. Luis smiled, saying that he was going to his wife Estelle. His attendant smiled, saying it had been so long since Prince Luis was this earnest about something of his own. Zara entered a room, realizing that the king's visit to the tea party was expected, yet it helped her a lot. That woman too must have realized that Prince Luis and she were a pair acknowledged by His Majesty. She took out her ribbon, the one so full of memories. But that was all a lie. She began to laugh wickedly, thinking her plan had worked. How Estelle would wish to file for a divorce, and of course Luis would approve. That unlucky lady who did not know her place should disappear at once. She dropped the ribbon into the fire, watching the shabby material burn in a matter of moments. Louis walked into Estelle's room and saw the baby's breath in the vase. It made him think of Estelle's bright smile that day. Letting her go was now impossible, and today was the day he would tell her how he really felt. He smiled, but Estelle was feeling more down than ever. The tea party had made her painfully aware that she was only a temporary contract wife. The others spoke of how Zara had been with Luis since she was little, and how they thought she would marry him someday. She had known that from the start. It was then that she crossed paths with Victor, who chuckled and called her the unlucky lady. Estelle told him it had been a while, and that since the wedding he seemed a bit different. She asked if they could talk for a moment, as there was something she wanted to ask him. It was the first time they had seen each other since the wedding. They went into the courtyard, and Victor asked Estelle if she was at least getting along with Luis. He said he had been busy preparing for the coronation and had not even seen his face. Estelle forced a smile, telling Victor that Luis had been very good to her. Victor hummed, saying he heard reports now and then about how close they looked at parties and at the theater. He smiled, saying it seemed to be true. Estelle then asked her question. She said she heard it was Victor who decided the marriage between her and Luis. She asked if that was true and if Prince Luis already had a fiancée. Victor told her that there was Zara, who had known Luis since childhood and whose name matched his rank. That was what Estelle thought she already knew. Victor took off his glasses and told Estelle he was grateful to her, as she knew Luis's popularity as the lucky prince was overwhelming. Even if he did not want it, everyone pushed him as the next king. If that had led to conflict with those who supported Victor, the kingdom would have been thrown into chaos. But once he married the unlucky lady, the fools went quiet thanks to her. Victor told Estelle that her marriage had served its purpose. Once the coronation was over, they could divorce and be free. Estelle looked down and Victor noticed her sad expression. He asked her directly if she had fallen for Luis. Estelle said no, it was not like that. She imagined herself as an obstacle. Victor told Estelle that he cared about his brother's happiness, and after he was done with his duty, he wanted Luis to marry the one he truly wanted. Victor said he would arrange a good match for Estelle so she should not hold back. Estelle smiled politely and thanked Victor for his concern. Victor was pleased to help before saying goodbye. When Estelle returned home, May noticed her complexion, but Estelle told her she was fine. More importantly, she was glad to know that Luis and Victor were not on bad terms. She knew Luis was Victor's precious younger brother, and that Zara was supposed to be engaged to Prince Luis. Estelle knew she needed to disappear. That was the only way everyone could be happy. She went to her garden and looked at the buds which had begun to blossom. Then she heard his voice. It was Luis. He looked her over in concern, saying he could not find her. It had begun to rain and Estelle was soaked, but she was so numb she did not care. Luis wrapped his jacket around her and said he was meant to stop by the tea party if his work ended early, but it did not, so he could not make it. He asked her if something happened, but Estelle said no and that she was fine. Luis admitted that there was a lot he wanted to ask her, but first they should go back since she would catch a cold staying out like this. He said he wanted to continue what they were talking about that morning. Estelle remembered what Victor said, how their marriage had served its purpose, and how after the coronation they could divorce and be free. She imagined that what Luis wanted to tell her was along the same lines. Luis told her to go inside and have May bring them some hot tea, but Estelle suddenly blurted out that the tea party was fun. Besides Princess Abby and Zara, there were other girls she met for the first time, and she even got to greet His Majesty. Luis looked at Estelle, knowing something was wrong. Estelle told him about the ribbon Zara was wearing, and how Zara said he gave it to her when they were small. Luis immediately said he did not remember that, but he and Zara saw each other often, so it was not impossible that he gave her something. Estelle looked down. They were close enough to exchange gifts, and she had heard everything from Victor earlier that day. So after all, Prince Luis and Zara were meant to be. Luis urged Estelle to hurry back and stay warm. He held out his hand, but Estelle had gone astray in her thoughts. She knew that if they were saying goodbye, it should be her to bring it up. Hearing Prince Luis tell her to leave would hurt too much. So she told Luis she was grateful to him. He was kind to her when everyone hated her, and he gave her so many happy memories. Being able to face her father's death more positively was because of him. She smiled as she thanked him. She knew she could live on these memories alone, even if she could not stay by his side. Luis looked at Estelle in fear, but Estelle said that for his happiness they should divorce, and before she could say another word she collapsed to the ground. Luis caught her as the rain fell heavier. Estelle opened her eyes and found herself in her warm bed. Soft blankets were tucked around her, and the faint scent of herbs lingered in the air. For a moment she did not understand where she was or how she got there. What had happened? 1 minute she had told Luis that she wanted to go forward with the divorce, her heart shaking as she forced the words out, and the next, everything went black. As her senses slowly returned, she turned her head and saw Luis sitting by her side. His posture was stiff as though he had not moved in a long time, but when he noticed her stirring, a look of deep relief spread across his face. His shoulders relaxed and he smiled as if a heavy weight had finally been lifted. He told her gently that she had finally woken up. Estelle jolted slightly, then became aware of the cool towel resting on her head and the faint ache behind her eyes. Luis explained in a calm voice that she had collapsed after getting soaked in the rain the day before. A doctor had been called immediately, and after examining her they concluded it was likely a cold brought on by exhaustion and exposure. She needed rest above all else. Estelle lowered her gaze to her hands resting on the blanket, memories rushing back in painful clarity. She remembered what she had said, the resolve she had tried so hard to gather, and how she was preparing herself to let Luis go for good. She had heard about Luis and Zara, about their shared past and the expectations placed on them, and she believed stepping aside was the right thing to do. Yet now Luis looked at her as if nothing mattered more than her being awake and safe. He asked softly if she felt sick anywhere, and Estelle shook her head, murmuring that she felt fine. To her surprise, Luis leaned closer. He gently held her head and nuzzled her nose with his, a gesture so natural that her breath caught. He told her she still had a slight fever. Estelle froze for a moment before apologizing for causing trouble again. Luis immediately took her hand, his grip warm and steady, and told her firmly that he never once thought of her as a bother. Estelle hesitated, then asked how long he had been by her side. Sunlight filtered through the curtains, painting the room in soft gold, and she realized it was already morning. The thought of him spending the entire night in an uncomfortable chair beside her made her chest tighten with guilt. But Luis brushed it off, saying he did not mind at all and that he simply wanted to stay with her until she woke up. Estelle wanted to accept that kindness. She wanted to smile, to believe that everything would be all right, but she could not. She knew what she believed needed to happen, and that was for her and Luis to divorce. With trembling fingers, she asked him why he was so kind to someone like her. Her vision blurred as tears welled in her eyes. Even though she felt she had to end this, the words would not come out. All she could think about was why he would care so deeply. Before she could sink further into her thoughts, Luis squeezed her hand. He told her it was because she was someone precious to him. The sincerity in his eyes made her heart ache even more. Estelle tried to speak, tried to say what she believed was right, but no sound came out. In that moment she realized she did not want to leave him at all. She took a shaky breath, but tears began to spill freely down her cheeks. In that quiet room, surrounded by warmth and concern, she finally understood the truth she had been denying all along. She was in love with Prince Luis. Estelle began to sob, crying that she was sorry. The feelings she had buried for so long came rushing out and she felt completely defeated, unable to stop herself. But instead of reproaching her, Luis stood up and apologized. He told her softly that he was sorry her fever had not gone down completely yet. His voice carried sadness as he said her health came first, and that they could always talk about everything another time. Luis wiped her tears with his thumb and told her she should sleep a little more. If only he knew the truth behind her tears. Estelle tried to calm herself as he kissed her cheek, his touch gentle and lingering. Luis smiled and told her to rest well before leaving the room. The door closed quietly behind him, and as soon as he was gone, Estelle began to sob again. She whispered an apology to Luis for falling in love with him and buried her face in her hands, weeping for what felt like forever. The next morning she forced herself to pull herself together. She walked outside to her allotment, the cool air brushing against her cheeks, and thought about how Prince Victor's coronation was coming soon. She gently tapped the buds that had begun to open, knowing that by the time these flowers bloomed, life with Prince Luis as she knew it would end. She remembered what he said when they first met at her home. When Victor was crowned safely in a year, he would set her free. Until then, he wanted her to play the role of his princess. Estelle crouched down, a shawl wrapped tightly around her body. Luis suddenly asked if she was really all right now. Even if her fever had gone down, she should not be outside in the wind. Estelle stood up in surprise when she saw him. She looked down and apologized, saying she had been worried about the flowers. The buds had really swollen and they seemed to have grown very quickly. That small sign of life brought a faint smile to her face. She knew this was possible because of the people who had helped her along the way. But Luis closed his eyes and said quietly that it was not quite like that. Estelle looked up confused, wondering what he meant. Luis told her that she was the one who worked the hardest, and that she should be more confident. He urged her to say it herself, that she worked hard to raise them. Estelle hesitated, unused to praising herself, but Luis encouraged her with a gentle nod. So she repeated after him that she worked hard to raise them. Luis laughed and gently petted her head, telling her she did great. His kindness made Estelle's heart ache. It made her want to rely on him, and she found herself wishing she could see his smile forever. But she knew that was only a dream she needed to wake up from. Estelle knew that she had to say it. She had to be the one to ask Luis. This contract marriage had already done its job and served its purpose, and ending it was the right thing to do. She turned to Prince Luis, devastation clear in her eyes, and asked him to divorce her. Luis's eyes widened and his face looked as though he had been struck by his worst nightmare. Estelle saw it clearly, yet she forced herself to continue. She told him she wanted him to be happy with the person he truly loved. Luis choked on his words, asking if that meant she did not hate him. Estelle quickly shook her head and told him of course not, but they had promised to divorce, and this was goodbye. Before she could walk away, Luis grabbed her hand. His grip trembled as he apologized, then corrected himself, saying that he was the one who needed to apologize. His face darkened, and for what felt like forever, silence stretched between them. Luis finally spoke, telling her that the day he asked her to marry him, it was not just because of luck. She had seen the real him, not just the surface everyone admired. Even when Estelle was treated unfairly because of the unlucky lady rumors, she endured it quietly. He told her she always put others first and lived in a clumsy, self-sacrificing way. He remembered how she believed she could never help anyone, and yet how being able to do even a little was enough to make her happy. Little by little he came to cherish her. He gently held her neck with his hand and looked into her eyes. Luis told her words she had never imagined hearing. He did not want this marriage to end in 1 year. He asked her, as his wife, if she would keep living with him from now on. Estelle was completely lost for words as relief washed over her. Luis pulled her into a hug so tight it felt as though he would never let go. She told him he needed to be happy. Luis pulled back and insisted that his happiness was being with her. Estelle could hardly believe it. Was this real? Luis told her he wanted her to be happy too and that he would make her wishes come true. He cradled her head and asked her to tell him what her happiness was. With tears streaming down her face, Estelle said she wanted to stay by his side and be his wife. She clutched his wrist and confessed that she felt that way because she loved him. Luis began by thanking her. Then he said the words she had longed to hear. He told her he loved her too. He leaned in, and his lips met hers.